Where does the depth of man lead? And you will see that there is an unknown factor to your present moment, which is very beautiful for you, but you have not acknowledged it completely because your attention has been on a story of you. So when a human being decides to put down a story similar to how one takes off a sweater that's stuck, their head stuck, and once you get it off, you have a very open sense of, in a sense, being. So we want at first to tell you that there's a very neutral state of human pleasantness that you can go, which is beyond thought. Immediately go on. So immediately, if you choose a meditative path, or if you choose some form of activity that brings you a sense of peace, take it. However, now, immediately when you have gone into a selfless state of being and collective gratefulness, in other words, you're grateful for anything that is very collectively being, in a sense, integrated and unified way, then you can begin, in a sense, if you would like, to begin engaging into advanced modalities of thought. So what that means is that the way human consciousness has been so far is it has reached itself to school. It has still not yet gone to school. But now it is at the point where it is comfortably in the school. Now, does it want to go to higher classes? So in other words, what I mean by that is that human consciousness has now an ability to go into just a great state of being. In other words, a blissful state of, in a sense, where you're in a sense omnipresent and omni-knowing, and you're simply just a beacon of just intuitive flow in this reality. Now, also aside from that, you can take that and, in a sense, engage thought with after receiving that sense of enlightened, or not in a sense enlightened, but in a sense clear state of mind. Then from a state of platform of clarity, I want to talk to certain advanced communicators who would like to, in a sense, come to a realm where they're acknowledging multiple dimensions to simply get a greater understanding of. Simply think of it as a pilot navigating through different planes of existence, with different planes of existence. So a pilot of consciousness. Now, where the human depth leads, in other words, where the end of that is actually into where it began. Because once you have reached the end of all the ideas you have now, if you simply sat down to be still and acknowledge who you are, after you've observed all that you could remember, you would suddenly go back to simple. So once complexity begins observing itself, especially in human nature, it suddenly goes back to simple things because you get tired. Simple as that. So the playfulness of your body is actually giving you the fluctuations in how your reality suddenly transitions into simplicity when you're tired, Now, when we look within our eyes, we have the present moment here. And so from the present moment, we begin to see that anything that we see, we are acknowledging as the surface. That's the analogy many people are conditioned into seeing, that reality, this is just the surface and there's something more, right? Now, that something more is not just an invitation to a greater realm, but a greater realm within your own sense of vision. So what that means is that if you were to suddenly remember all the structures of your memory which you have owned and have walked through, you will suddenly see that, okay, what else is there? In other words, the real estate agent at that point becomes simply your inspiration to know who you are. Now, in confronting self, you are seeing the self-reflective nature of self. And so you must have the ability to observe both sides of your spectrum. Remember, as many sages have said beautifully, and Rumi has said, you need two wings to fly, one good and bad. So in other words, acknowledge all the worst possibilities and acknowledge all the good possibilities and see the observance that continues beyond. And so that is very important to know, because advanced communication means advanced trust in the abstraction of man. So what that means is we're all really keeping our experience. It's like we don't want to experience something out of our comfort zone, right? Now, if some people just went insane and just ran into that realm of unknown, but not ran in a sense of fear, but ran with a sense of love and excitement and wonder and a sense of intuitive knowing that now is the time to do this, then they would see that life has greater plans, because its intelligence navigates you from the idea that is limited. So it begins taking you. So pretty much the pilot of consciousness becomes a being within the plane of existence, becoming the ability of non-existence, because it is observance of its existence. So it is a very collective state of consciousness, because the individuality no longer is there to, in a sense, corrupt its own empire. You're not there to bother yourself, but trust me, have the ability to have great structure. In other words, suddenly, if you must be able to be comfortable with any memory that you have so far, any experience you have. So in other words, have the ability to in an instant be and recognize in the mirror of the moment that, all right, I have lived, this is who I am, but now I am a present energy. I am a new sense of who I can be and what I can do, because I know that tomorrow I can walk and go do different things. Simply, it's my nature to be novel and to move. So now, when a human being, a self-aware being on this planet, has an ability to move and, in a sense, has also the ability to be the observant of its movement, you see that man is a very important station. It is a very important platform, because the imagery of man give great velocity to how we, in a sense, move into our abstract realms and our liquid bodies to then recognize that our true nature is gas. So what that means is that man is first in the ideology. In other words, I'm just simply talking about the ideology, not culture. That man is in the ideology that he is worshipping a God and there is a greater God, right? Now he's understanding that that greater God is a collective existential intelligence. So it's the same aspect of self. So man sees that the idea was the illusion. And so when he sees the idea was the illusion, there's a collective sense of knowing where you can see that you can trust even when infinite arrows pierce your materiality outside into formlessness. You will see that you have great ability to confront many things, and your mind begins pushing and pulling, because your mind begins being as if like it's working up. It's as if like you've just gone into the beautiful building of your mind, and you're snapping your fingers and telling people, move, 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 let's get working, and suddenly the whole building's waking up. Your whole intelligence system is acting with itself and remembering. And so what that means is that collective acknowledgement means that you have such an appreciation for your individuality that you are always in collective movement, in collective knowing. In other words, you are simply just a being that knows how to be. The greatest skill. Know how to be, and you see, you already know it because you are being. There's an elegance in the bridges of man's self-awareness. Give yourself a gift of self-awareness, and you will see that the depths of your mind is always leading back to a greater understanding of yourself, a greater understanding of a self that has unspeakable dimensions of experience, because that is how we find writers who are inspired but don't know what to write. In other words, we see that man is very able because he can navigate through his communication into many realities to then inspire the individual. So what that means is that so far many people think that the human intelligence on our planet has been one that it's been individualized, so it hasn't tapped into these collective knowings. But that's because the individuality in humanity, in other words, the self-awareness, is acknowledging itself still as a body, but as a body of thought now, because it's comfortable with the thoughts of physicality, and it has great thoughts because it's an artist. You know what I mean? It has to move beyond the ideology to then see the ability one has to work with ideology. In my writings in the beginning, there would be this beautiful sentence that it is actually in something, one of the first things that I wrote, and it was that your work works with you. And so I understood in that moment that through every intuitive moment I had trusted in my memory, it had all come to this moment to be of value, to be even kept alive. You must not disengage with the ability that you are. Because when you do, then you shape that which needs to not be shaped. The world turns, and so we also turn in our placement. Who you are now is simply an inspiration for who you are to be. And so the pilots of consciousness are advanced communicators, because guys, it is a very beautiful realm when through a selfless and, in a sense, such a certain and a trust in life manner of just acknowledgement, that in a sense you will see one human being can dissolve into all that is observing his humanity and can define his humanity. It is as if like you are taking greater responsibilities. We are taking human consciousness in this plane of existence, and I'm simply suggesting that, guys, do not think that there have not been silent leaders here. In other words, man is being prepared for a gift. Man is simply a child which they're giving him his gift, which is now the existential transcendence and evolution of his machinery, and so who he is right now. And what that really means is that you are simply by choice staying in a state of consciousness that is negative and bothering you. You simply need to recognize that your self-awareness is your freedom. And so freedom never needed to be termed to then even have a shape to even be taken. And so you will see in the beauty of the cross that could be the playfulness of two pens held together in a perpendicular way and very parallel at the same time. You will see that man can now comfortably experience his experience in a way where he can be different aspects and considerations of the moment. So in other words, you are thinking that you're a physical body individual and that you go touch that tree, and that tree is in a sense you don't have its experience, but in a sense in a certain subtler way of acknowledging who you are and an awareness of your simultaneous knowing, in a sense, your collective, let's say, consciousness, you will see that you can also have the experience of the tree. So in other words, you become everything that you have touched. Collective consciousness is simply a natural state of being. In other words, just like how you are born in a hospital, there are some other states of being and other worlds where there are not in other words other worlds, but in other words other initiations of awareness, simply because man can become aware of it that way. Time and space are conceptualized to remain, because that's how you can tell yourself to remember it, because yourself has to be individualized so you can even acknowledge yourself here. No? Because it is not common for the common man to simply dissolve his identities and simply say, I am a moment of existence and I am simply the awareness to all. And so that is a very powerful state of expression, because the human being is reaching the peak of its experience, because it is allowing itself to see what is next. It is allowing itself to be the lover of the unknown and to run into that forest, not with the fear that a tiger will catch him, but with a sense of intensity that is beyond any change, any individual change, because then you will see that you are the navigator of your plane of existence. And so with the beauty of that vision, you will allow And with the playfulness of letting yourself see what happens with your reality, you will create a personal sense of excitement, which is always your greater acknowledgement. So you will literally feel as if, so how you would feel is that you will begin walking every day and you will feel as if you are being greatly acknowledged. In other words, everything that is in your vision has become so significant because you see what is present. And that beauty is one that, again, very beautifully, is as simple as the ripples in a pond settling and us seeing that in that stillness and silence of awareness, the reflection of a limitless sky with starlight being not just the eyes from above, but what lies above our eyes. Much blessings, and remember, where the depth of man leads is always now. Namaste.